If you are over 60, there is one simple movement you should pay more attention to. And you do not need a gym. You do not need expensive equipment. You do not even need a pair of dumbbells. You need a sturdy chair. The movement is called the sit to stand. It sounds almost too simple to matter. But think about how many times you use this movement every day. You get out of a chair. You get up from the toilet. You get out of bed. You stand up from the dining table. You rise from the couch. You may not think about these movements when you are young, but as we get older, something important can change. The simple act of standing up can gradually become harder, and when standing becomes difficult, everyday life can become more difficult too. That is why today's exercise is not about looking athletic. It is about keeping your body capable of doing ordinary things. And there is an important point before we begin. This is not the only exercise seniors need. Adults 65 and older are generally advised to include aerobic activity, muscle strengthening activity, and balance activity during the week. The CDC recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity each week, muscle strengthening activities on at least 2 days, and activities that improve balance. So think of the sit to stand as one useful movement inside a bigger exercise routine. Not a magic cure, not a replacement for walking, and not something every person should perform in exactly the same way. Now let's talk about why this movement deserves your attention. When you stand up from a chair, your body has to coordinate several things at once. Your legs have to produce force. Your hips have to extend. Your trunk has to move forward and then become upright. Your feet have to stay stable. And your balance has to adjust as your body changes position. In other words, standing up is not just a leg movement. It is a functional movement. And that word matters. Functional means it relates to something you actually need to do in daily life. The National Institute on Aging emphasizes that physical activity can improve physical function, including everyday activities such as getting into or out of a chair and moving around. That is very different from exercising simply because a fitness video tells you to. You are training for life. Now, before you try it, let's make the movement safer. Choose a sturdy chair. Do not use a lightweight chair that slides easily across the floor. Place the chair on a stable surface. If you feel unsteady, have a counter, wall, or another sturdy support nearby. And if you normally use a walker, cane, or another mobility aid, don't suddenly abandon it just because you are doing an exercise. Safety comes first. Here is the basic movement. Sit near the front portion of the chair with your feet flat on the floor. Keep your feet about hip width apart, or in whatever position feels stable for you. Lean your upper body slightly forward. Then push through your feet and stand up. Once you are standing, pause. Straighten comfortably. Then slowly bend your hips and knees and lower yourself back toward the chair. Do not simply drop into the seat. Control the way down. That controlled lowering is part of the exercise. Then repeat. That's it. No jumping. No fast movements. No complicated choreography. Just standing up and sitting down with control. But there is a common mistake I want you to avoid. Do not turn this into a race. Some people hear the word exercise and immediately think faster is better. For this movement, that can be a bad strategy. The goal is not to see how many repetitions you can complete in 30 seconds. The goal is to practice good movement, slow enough to stay controlled, strong enough to challenge your muscles, and easy enough that you can maintain safe form. If you cannot stand without using your hands, that does not mean you have failed. It means you should modify the exercise. You can use the chair arms for assistance. You can place your hands on your thighs if that helps you rise safely. You can also start with a higher chair. The movement should match your current ability. Then, as you become stronger and more confident, you can gradually make it harder. This is important because there is a difference between challenging your body and overwhelming it. If a movement is so difficult that you are losing your balance, holding your breath, twisting your body, or dropping heavily into the chair, it is too difficult right now. Make it easier. There is no prize for making an exercise unnecessarily hard. Now let's talk about your legs. Many people associate aging with weak legs as though weakness is simply something everyone has to accept. But losing strength is not something you should automatically surrender to. Physical activity and strength training can help older adults maintain muscle strength and physical function. And the lower body matters enormously because your legs are involved in so many daily tasks. Walking, climbing stairs, getting out of bed, getting into a car, standing from a chair, carrying groceries, moving around your home. Even if you never enter a gym, your legs are doing physical work every day. The problem is that modern life can quietly reduce how much work they do. You sit on the couch, you sit at the kitchen table, you sit in the car, you sit while watching television, and sometimes the less you move, the less capable movement feels. That can become a cycle. You move less because you feel weak. Then you become less active because movement feels harder. And eventually, ordinary movements can feel like major tasks. Breaking that cycle does not require an extreme workout. Sometimes it starts with small, repeatable movements. The sit to stand is useful because it gives your legs a job to do. But don't make the mistake of thinking that doing this exercise once automatically prevents falls. It doesn't. Falls are complicated. Balance, vision, medications, footwear, home hazards, muscle strength, walking ability, medical conditions, and many other factors can affect fall risk. That's why a complete exercise routine should include different types of activity. The CDC specifically recommends balance activities for older adults, and strength and balance can complement each other. So the sit to stand is one piece of the puzzle. Now here's another reason I like this movement for a senior-focused routine. It is measurable. You can notice whether something is getting easier. Maybe today you need to push lightly with your hands. A few weeks from now, you may need less assistance. Maybe today you can do 3 controlled repetitions. Later, you might comfortably do 8. Maybe you have to use a high chair at first. Later, a normal chair may feel easier. Those changes matter because they represent function. And functional improvement is often more meaningful than simply watching a number on a scale. Imagine being able to stand from your favorite chair without thinking about it. Imagine getting out of the car with less effort. Imagine climbing a few steps with more confidence. These are not dramatic gym achievements, but they can make daily life easier, and that is the real goal of exercise after 60. Not becoming a professional athlete, not trying to look 20 years younger, but maintaining the ability to live your own life. There is also something else you should understand. You do not have to start with a perfect workout. If you have been inactive for months or years, starting aggressively is not necessarily the smartest approach. The CDC advises older adults to be as physically active as their abilities and conditions allow, and notes that some activity is better than none. So start where you are, not where you wish you were. If 1 repetition is all you can safely do today, that is your starting point. If you can comfortably do 5, start there. If you already exercise regularly, the movement may be easier for you, and you can work towards stronger, more controlled repetitions. Your starting point is not your destination. And one more thing, do not ignore pain. A little effort in your muscles is one thing. Sharp pain, significant joint pain, dizziness, chest discomfort, unusual shortness of breath, or feeling like you may faint is different. Stop and seek appropriate medical advice. And if you have a health condition that affects your ability to exercise, talk with your healthcare professional about what level and type of activity is appropriate for you. Exercise should build your ability. It should not put you in unnecessary into a simple routine. And remember, you do not need to start with a large number. For someone who is new to this movement, even a few controlled repetitions can be a starting point. The CDC's General Muscle Strengthening Guidance uses sets of around 8 to 12 repetitions for many strengthening activities. But that does not mean every senior should immediately force themselves to complete 12 chair stands. Your ability comes first. If you are starting from a very low fitness level, begin with a number you can perform safely and with control. For some people, that might be 3 repetitions. For others, 5. And for someone already active, 8 to 12 may be reasonable. The important thing is that the final repetition should not look dramatically different from the first. If your knees start collapsing inward, you are throwing your body forward, or you are dropping into the chair, you've reached the point where you should stop or make the exercise easier. Quality matters. Let's go through the biggest mistakes. Mistake number 1 is using momentum. You may see someone lean far forward and almost throw their body out of the chair. That can make standing easier temporarily, but it also reduces the controlled challenge you want from the movement. Instead, lean forward naturally, keep your feet planted, and push through your feet to rise. Mistake number 2 is dropping into the chair. This is one of the easiest mistakes to make. You stand up, and then, on the way down, you simply fall backward into the seat. Don't do that. The lowering portion is important. Bend your hips and knees and lower yourself gradually. Think about sitting down quietly rather than collapsing into the chair. Mistake number 3 is letting the knees move in an unstable direction. Your exact knee position will vary depending on your body structure, but the general goal is to keep the legs controlled and stable. Don't allow your knees to suddenly collapse inward as you stand. If that happens, reduce the difficulty. Mistake number 4 is holding your breath. People often hold their breath when a movement feels difficult. Try to breathe normally instead. You don't need to make a complicated breathing pattern. Just avoid deliberately holding your breath through the entire repetition. Mistake number 5 is doing too many repetitions too soon. This is where enthusiasm can become counterproductive. If you do 20 or 30 repetitions on your first day because you want fast results, your muscles and joints may not appreciate the decision. Start modestly. Let your body adapt. Then, gradually increase the challenge. Remember, consistency beats one exhausting workout. Now here's a simple progression. Stage 1 is assisted sit to stand. Use your hands if you need them. Your goal is simply to practice the movement safely. Stage 2 is reduced assistance. Maybe you use only one hand, or perhaps you touch the chair or your thighs lightly instead of pushing strongly. Stage 3 is body weight sit to stand. Your arms stay relaxed while your legs do most of the work. Stage 4 is controlled repetitions. Instead of simply standing and sitting, focus on a smooth movement in both directions. Stage 5 is gradual progression. You might increase the number of repetitions, or you might perform another set after resting. You don't need to make every workout harder. You just want your body to gradually become more capable. And here's something many people overlook. The goal isn't necessarily to perform the sit-to-stand every single day at maximum effort. Your muscles need recovery, especially after more challenging strengthening sessions. The CDC recommends muscle strengthening activities at least 2 days per week for older adults. So you can practice the movement frequently at an easy level while keeping harder strengthening sessions appropriately spaced and balanced with walking and other activities. Think movement every day, but not maximum effort every day. That's a much more sustainable approach. Now let's connect this exercise to walking. You may be wondering, if I'm trying to walk better, why should I spend time standing up from a chair? Because walking and standing are different skills. Walking requires repeated movement, coordination, balance, and endurance. Standing from a chair requires you to produce enough force to move your body from sitting to standing. They complement each other. That is why a senior exercise routine should not become obsessed with a single movement. Walk when you can. Strengthen your muscles. Practice balance. Move throughout the day. And use functional exercises such as chair stands to reinforce everyday abilities. The National Institute on Aging recommends a combination of aerobic, muscle strengthening, and balance activities for older adults. That combination is more useful than searching for one magical exercise. Now let's talk about independence. This is probably the most important reason to care about your leg strength. Independence is not just about living alone. It is about having enough physical ability to participate in your own life. Getting up when you want to, going to the bathroom safely, walking into the kitchen, getting in and out of a car, shopping, visiting family, going outside, doing basic household tasks. When physical function declines, these ordinary activities can become harder, and once enough activities become difficult, people may start avoiding them. That can mean less movement. Less movement can mean even less strength and confidence. This is why maintaining physical function matters. NIA-supported research has shown that structured physical activity can help reduce the risk of major mobility disability in older adults who are vulnerable to disability. In the LIFE study, participants assigned to a structured physical activity program had an 18% lower risk of major mobility disability over the study period compared with those assigned to a health education program. But notice something important. That program was not just chair stands. It included walking, strength training, flexibility, and balance. That is exactly why I don't want you to misunderstand today's message. The sit to stand is not a miracle exercise. It is a practical exercise, and practical exercises are valuable because they train abilities you actually use. Now let's create a simple daily movement habit. After breakfast, stand up from your chair a few times. Later in the day, take a short walk if you are able. When you have been sitting for a long time, get up and move around. In the evening, you can practice a few controlled chair stands again if your body feels good, and the exercise is appropriate for you. You don't have to turn every movement into a workout. The bigger goal is to reduce the amount of time you spend completely inactive. CDC guidance emphasizes moving more and sitting less, and notes that some physical activity is better than none. That is an important message for anyone who thinks exercise only counts if they sweat heavily for 30 minutes. It doesn't. Your body responds to movement, and movement can be built into ordinary life. Now, here's a simple challenge. For the next 7 days, don't focus on doing the most repetitions possible. Instead, focus on doing the movement correctly. Choose a sturdy chair. Place both feet firmly on the floor. Lean forward slightly. Stand with control. Pause. Then lower yourself slowly. Rest when needed. And keep track of how the movement feels. At the beginning, you might notice that getting up requires concentration. After practicing consistently, you may notice that it feels more natural. That doesn't mean you have reversed aging. It means you are giving your body a chance to practice a useful physical skill. And that distinction matters. Healthy aging is not about defeating age. It is about maintaining as much function, strength, mobility, and independence as possible. So if you are over 60, don't underestimate simple movements. The exercise that looks too easy to matter may be the exact movement your daily life depends on. You don't need a complicated machine. You don't need a perfect home gym. Sometimes the best place to start is the chair you're already sitting in. Stand up, sit down, control the movement, repeat according to your ability, and gradually build from there. But remember one final rule. Your body is not identical to anyone else's. If you have significant balance problems, recent surgery, serious joint problems, chest symptoms, unexplained dizziness, or another condition that makes exercise uncertain, get individualized guidance from a qualified healthcare professional before starting or progressing your routine. And if you feel unsafe doing the movement alone, don't force it. Safety is more important than repetition count. The real victory isn't doing 50 chair stands. The real victory is being able to stand up from your chair tomorrow, next month, and years from now with confidence. Because after 60, fitness is not only about how much you can lift, it is about what you can still do for yourself. And sometimes that starts with something as simple as standing up.